Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Inside the Picture. We've been off for a few weeks because Candy and I have been traveling to Europe, but we're glad to be back. We have a new face here who's going to be a permanent part of what we do, and his name is Ed McAndrew. Ed, why don't you give everybody an overview or background of what you do, how much you love sports and your other occupations. You'll have numerous opportunities on this show and the hockey to do it as well. So the more repetition we give towards you, the better. Go ahead, Ed. Please take over.
Absolutely. Thanks, Scott. I appreciate you having me on.
You're welcome.
Scott and I know each other from back in a previous broadcasting venture that we were both part of. As Scott said, I just love sports, football. I've got the Knicks Cavaliers game on here, hockey, whatever it might be. But I guess wrestled in high school, was a crew cock. Wrestled in high school, crew coxswain in college, men's basketball team in college. My fun fact about myself, I'm actually a little person. I only stand about 4'2". So, great things come in small packages, as they like to say. My two happy places are the beach and the gym. So, other than that, Scott, I'm just glad to be here, and I enjoy talking about sports. And the more I'm on here, the more I'm going to tell people, and I will start building the audience for my circle as well, because that's how you build, is you extend out into circles.
Yeah, get used to Ed McAndrew, people. You're going to see a lot of them. Michael Edwards, what's up, Michael Edwards? Glad to see you back. Thank you very much for being in the chat room, and we appreciate the journey. It's been quite a journey. So with that said, let's talk about the rest of our crew. I've got a lot to get to tonight. We'll go help with my designated co-host, Jeremy Flores. Go ahead, Jeremy. Glad to have you back.
Glad to be here as well. Good to see you, Scott. Nice to meet you, Eric. And Mel, as always, it's an honor to be on the screen with you. And, of course, the lovely Candy Ebling, Scott's wife.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Speaking of Candy, welcome back. Obviously, she keeps I keep her very busy, right? And I started running back with the rock. I hope you enjoyed the time off, Mel. Now we're going to take the show to another level. You've been with me with every stop I've had. I'm so proud that you're with me on as we continue this journey through our network, Mel. You're, to me, A1. All righty.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Scott. And just send me your Cash App when we get done. We get off.
No problem. I'm talking about, pal. I got a book and a hat on the way when I get up there. So don't worry about it. We'll get you a hat.
That's great. That's great.
And Ed's goal is to get in the next one. All right.
I didn't know Scott was Cash Apping people. Dang. Should have gotten in on that.
Well, that's news to me.
I missed out on my contract there, Mel. I should have touched base with you first.
That's news to me, but okay. Obviously, Mel is one of my executives who obviously is known for taking me to the big chicken out in Atlanta. If you know what that is, it's called the extended version of Kentucky Fried Chicken, only 10 times bigger than the normal version of it. All right, well, we got a lot to get to, so let's talk about some football. We're going to start with college football. A lot of movement. Obviously, talk about FBS and FCS. So we're going to talk about the top candidates to join FBS going forward. You have North Dakota as one of them, followed by Southeast Louisiana. North Dakota is actually considered a favorite to go in to the MAC, the Mid-American Conference, Southeast Louisiana, SBC, I think the Sun Belt Conference, Mercer Conference USA, Illinois State's headed to the MAC. Youngstown State looks like they're MAC bound. Tarleton State, Sun Belt Conference bound. And Sacramento State, we're talking Mountain Westbound. Montana looks like they're Mountain Westbound, and Montana State Mountain Westbound as well. South Dakota State Mountain Westbound. So let's talk about these teams, Jeremy. Okay, and these haven't been announced yet. Obviously, I'll get to that more and more as Sacramento State and North Dakota State have made the plunge. But let's take a look at this group, Jeremy. Which ones do you think will have the bigger impact as time goes on?
I think North Dakota State might, because they've had a lot of success. They've been very successful in Division II, and I think they have the best stadium out of all those teams that moved up.
I agree.
What about you, Ed?
Oh, I agree with Jeremy. I think North Dakota State, I actually follow a lot of that level of football for the longest time because my wife is a James Madison University graduate. I went to St. Joe's. We don't have a football team, so I adopted James Madison, And it just happened to be, when our boy Signetti from Indiana came from James Madison. So I watch a lot of North Dakota and all those division FBS schools and so on. FCS schools. And I think to Jeremy's point, I think they're always there. They're kind of like the Alabama was, or what have you, or the Georgia. I don't want to upset any of our listeners by saying the wrong school. So fill in your name school here. But no, I think they would be a strong candidate. And I think, it's kind of like, I'd like to see, just as a side note, James Madison to eventually get into the ACC and play some of these schools in this area, because I think they could be very competitive.
Well, James Madison, though, Kurt Signetti definitely put them on the map. But so of the schools that I mentioned, though, which one do you think is going to have the biggest impact going in right away? Do you have any rough idea? I don't know how much you follow it.
Oh, I think North Dakota State will have the biggest impact. I do. I think out of North Dakota and South Dakota State and so on, I think just because who the heck was it? They've even put some players in the NFL from North Dakota State, a couple. The quarterback, I can't think of.
Trey Lance.
Yes, Trey Lance, the quarterback.
Christian Watson.
So when you see schools able to do that at that lower level, that means they're producing some high quality players are going to the schools that are at the lower level, because what the players are deciding is, I'd rather play and get noticed than sit the bench at a Georgia.
Okay, fair enough.
So,
all right, Mel.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with the other two panelists as well. I mean, you mentioned you rattled off a lot of names there, a lot of schools. I don't know why schools would want to move up in this climate right now, as competitive as the FBS is currently. But if I were to take a guess, it would probably be North Dakota State.
Candy?
Carson Wentz.
Carson Wentz, Trey Lance, Gray Zabel.
Carson Wentz was.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just saying Carson Wentz was the name I was trying to get to. Now that Patty just chimed it in. Thank you, Patty.
North Dakota State has 16 active in the NFL right now, including Christian Watson, Carson Wentz, Cole Payton, Trey Lance. There's a bunch of them. But the other thing that we can't forget, the Bison have won 18 national championships, 39 conference championships. They have won 10 NC Division I FCS national championships between 2011 and 2024. Yes. They hold the record for the most NC2A national championships and the record for the most consecutive championships, with 5 titles between 2011 and 2015. So I think, they're going to make the most impact.
Okay, so let's take this the other way. Okay, we talked about the ones that will make the most impact. Let's talk about the teams that could drop the FCS, and we're talking about. I'll just mention the names of the teams, not where they're at, because I'm not familiar with the conferences over on the other side. You got Southern Miss, UTEP, University of Louisiana at Monroe, Georgia State, Middle Tennessee. Candy and I know that one all too well. Eastern Michigan, Charlotte, New Mexico State, Akron, UMass. So Jeremy, what are your thoughts about these other ones that could drop if they're not competitive over at the FBS level? Jeremy.
I think that it should be more of a regulated league. We should treat it. Are you listening to me? I'm talking. I didn't know if you could hear me.
Multitasking. Yeah, I am.
Yeah, we can hear you. Loud and clear. Coming in loud and clear there.
Okay, good. Okay. Because you said, you called my name again, and I was in the middle of my take. It just threw me off.
That's okay. Go ahead.
I think they should regulate teams. in the different divisions between FCS and FBS. Teams that hit the top should be regulated up to to the FBS level. And the ones that do horrible repeatedly, move them down to FCS. Let's have some movement like that.
Okay, so of the list that I gave you, Are there any particular names that stand out that you think would most likely end up at FCS?
UMass. They're constantly at the bottom of their division.
Yeah.
That's fair. I thought about them too. Okay, go ahead. Dakota Miller, go Gators. How about that? Thanks for being in the chat room. Patty Grimes, MSU. Thanks for being in the chat room. Okay, Ed, let's talk about
Mel made an interesting point just a few minutes ago that I think we need to go back and touch on. In today's climate, with regards to football, basketball, and the whole NIL aspect, and it's now becoming more of a minor league. Why? I understand it's about the dollar sometimes, but to get to that next level, you have to make sure before you make the move, you have to make sure you have the NIL money in place. Whatever, it's unfortunate that it's gone this way to some extent, as it's becoming more of a minor league type system. But I mean, some of these kids were making more money as college athletes than they're coming in as their rookie year in the NFL. I mean, I think that's something to consider as you're moving up, because what'll happen is you'll move up and you'll get, let's say North Dakota or let's say North Dakota. Like, no offense to any North Dakotians, but who wants to necessarily go there in the middle of winter during football season unless they're being paid good NIL money? It's just something to think about.
And actually, you know what? That's a great point. That's probably a topic that we're going to talk about. One guy that stands out, and I may bring it on next week. So, Ed, why don't you send me a message about bringing that up? But the guy that stands out is Diego Pavia, who obviously is taking a hit. A lot of guys are taking a hit just to take it early. But send me that in the messenger, and then I'll put that as a top topic that we're going to isolate with next week. I'm glad you brought it up. All right, Mel, let's talk about the ones that could likely.
One thing, when you do bring up that topic, you have to talk about the Senior Bowl and the clip that we played that we have on our channel about the cold weather.
Yeah, well, there you go. I'll let you do the talking for me. Thanks.
Yep.
I'll need the voice throughout the whole show, but great stuff. All right, Mel. Of all these,
I mean, I don't know. I don't follow those programs that much. I'm not really following the bottom feeders, so to speak, of the NCAA. I know Georgia. It's not going to be Georgia State because they just moved up, and this Georgia. Football is king here in Georgia. I know they're not going to go back down to the FCS level again. Like I said, I don't know why, because you have to have a certain amount of money in order to compete at that level. So, but probably like you said, you guys said UMass. I'll go with UMass. That sounds good enough to me.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll go ahead and follow up with you, JV. Okay, UMass seems like the most logical one. I don't see Eastern Michigan going to FCS. No way. Not a chance.
No, because weren't they just a conference champion like in the last 5 years?
Yeah, but I still don't see a program like that in Michigan going down to FCS. Not that. I mean, maybe they were, maybe they. I don't follow the MAC because I'm not in that part of the country like you are. But I see your point. I think UMass. Go ahead, Candy.
I'm going to agree with everybody on the panel. I mean, I don't follow those as much. My alma mater is a Division III school, so they don't even, they're not quite there yet. So,
which one is that?
UW Whitewater. They actually Lance Leopold started there, so they've
right.
So, but yes, so I'll leave it at that.
Okay, well, let's continue on to the same theme here, and then we'll get to pros in a few moments. Okay. And that being this, North Dakota State and Sacramento State are the ones that are for sure moving it up, bringing up FBS to 138. Okay, Jeremy, I'm going to make this an easy question across the panel. Of these two teams, Sacramento State and North Dakota State, which one has a better year?
North Dakota State. I think North Dakota State's going to have at least a plus 500 record. Sacramento State, I think they're going to struggle in their division.
Yeah, we'll have more on Sacramento State too next week. I have some stuff I want to put in there, but I'm just taking care of this right now. Okay, Eddie, what do you got there of these two? A and B.
I have to say, go with Jeremy, just because I'm actually more familiar with North Dakota State, and they just dominated when they were playing, in the league, and though I did read some stuff about Sacramento State being, good for the California market and having another team out there and so on. So I guess we'll see, but I still, it goes back to the players. They're going to the next level. Can you still get the players? And, Cignetti proved it. He took 15 kids from James Madison to Indiana, and then what? And just torched the whole Big Ten and everything else in its way. So, so can you get the players in, and you can have them buy in? So we'll see.
Okay, Mel.
Yeah, I'm going to go with North Dakota State as well. I don't know much about Sac State. We know that there's a lot of talent in the state of California. And like Ed said, I mean, it all goes back to recruiting. You got to have the horses. And I think you have to have the right leadership there. I think everything kind of, worked out perfectly for Indiana. They got the right leader. He brought in the right horses. And they've been very successful for the last number of years. And he's going to make it hard on other coaches that are going in and trying to turn around programs because – I mean, what he did was unbelievable. He just didn't turn around a program. I mean, he took a program that has historically done nothing since it's been in existence and turned it into, obviously a national champion, and maybe even a national power in the Big Ten.
Okay, Candy.
Yeah, as I'm looking at Sacramento State and their, the games, I think North Dakota State has a better season.
Yeah, I agree all the way around. Okay, let's talk about the teams with the most 2026 players for the combine votes. And this will be pretty straightforward because I like this stat because it really gives you a gauge exactly from what we experienced our first Senior Bowl. Texas A&M sent 13 to had 13 combine invites. Alabama had 12. LSU and Ohio State with 11, Georgia and Oklahoma and Miami each coming in with 10. So, Jeremy, your thoughts about these big blue bloods and which one impresses you the most out of this group?
I'm going to say the Miami one. I even though they were the runner-up in the national championships, they ended up getting a lot of people into the NFL this year, and I'm proud of them for doing that.
What about you, Eddie? So the question is, which one would surprise me? I don't know. I think maybe, Miami's Miami was probably as much a surprise with Beck at quarterback, leaving Georgia and stuff, getting to where they did. So I guess, actually I'm going to probably go, I don't know. That's tough. Because they're all blue bloods, and it's what you expect. You expect them to put because
you think this question was supposed to be easy? You're right. Yeah, they are all blue bloods. That's why.
But it goes back to what we've been talking about, the kind of theme of the show. Okay, so if I'm a college athlete, I'm a college player that's on the ESPN top 350, let's say, where do I want to go to somewhere that's going to give me the best shot to get an invite to the combine,
right,
or somewhere like that. So then we starting to get into haves and have-nots. Now I'm gonna take the easy route. I'm gonna piggyback off of Jeremy, and I'm gonna say probably Miami, because Miami was down for a long time. They weren't the U of the 80s and 90s. With all those guys back then. So they're turning that program around as well.
Okay, Mel.
I would say Texas A&M. I mean, it shouldn't be a surprise about Miami. I mean, Miami was in the national championship game. The only way you get there is if you have some good horses. You don't get there just because you have good coaching. But I would say Texas A&M because they're kind of like, they're kind of the afterthought. I mean, I know they're playing the SEC now, but Texas A&M really wants to be one of the big boys. I don't look at Texas A&M as being a blue blood program. I think Bear Bryant coached there way back yonder. But I've never looked at Texas A&M as one of those programs that was a blue blood program. I think they've always wanted to be, but I think they've always been overshadowed by the Texases and Oklahomas of the world when they were playing in the Big 8 or the Big 12 or whatever it was at that particular time. So I would say Texas A&M, and I don't remember how far they went in the playoffs. I can't remember.
Well, Miami knocked them out, if I understand correctly. I believe.
Yeah, that you might be correct about that, but that would be my surprise. But I mean, it's not surprising that they have that many players at the combine, so to speak. Because in order for you to be successful and be able to make a run, you have to have some horses. So that's not surprising. It's just surprising that a lot of people are buying into Texas A&M as being a blue blood program. I don't view them as a blue blood program.
Candy?
Scott, repeat the choices one more time for me.
Sure, no problem. Let me go to them. Texas A&M, 13, Alabama with a dozen, LSU and Ohio State with 11, Georgia, Oklahoma, Miami had 10.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with Mel, because I wouldn't say Texas A&M to me is a blue blood. I mean, you talk about Ohio State, you talk about Alabama, and they've been up there for so long that you would think that they would. But I would say Texas A&M out of those, and then maybe Oklahoma for me, because I think the rest of them are ones that you would just automatically assume they would have a lot of people going to with success.
See, that's it. I never thought that Texas A&M was ever a blue blood. But what I'm going to tell you right now is Miami with 10, and look how many of them got drafted, and look how many of them are on rosters. That's another story. So for me, the obvious choice is Miami. Let's talk about a program. Obviously, it's new to the party here, and we're going to talk about, and we're going to talk about the things that you need to know about Chicago's first Division I program. How you like that, Chicago people? All right.
Wow.
And that's this. Chicago hasn't had a Division I team since the University of Chicago left major college football in 1939. None of us were born then, I don't think. Okay. Yeah,
I feel like I was, but no.
Yes.
No, if you talk to my body, it has a different opinion too. The program hired its first head coach, Bobby Rome II, in 2025, known for building programs. So Bobby Rome II, Candy, Rome, is building this thing. Chicago State signed its first recruiting class on National Signing Day, bringing in 55 student athletes. The facility upgrades are already underway, including a new turf field, and the first game kicks off August 29th versus Roosevelt at SeatGeek Stadium in Bridgeview, Illinois. And Chicago State, obviously, they've added this program here, so it's SeatGeek. So now you've got another program in a major market that can easily, if it's recruited properly, you can have a pretty interesting program in a matter of 5 years, Jeremy, in Chicago. It's not like Northwestern University, which we know is in Evanston, Illinois, a suburb outside, but now Chicago has a real inner city type of team.
They're going to have a rough go making a splash in the FBS as an independent this year, but they joined the Northeastern Conference in 2027. So this is their first year playing in the FBS as a football team, according to what I'm reading. And the season opener is August 29th this year.
Right. SeatGeek Stadium. All right, Ed, we'll talk about Chicago.
Well, I think it's great. I'm looking at Joseph Austin made a comment about A&M having Texas oil money changing the game. My question is, somebody who came into Chicago and said, I need a football team. And, I think it's great. 1939 and be able to do that in the city, in an inner city school, they might run into some problems at first while they're making a name with U of I, Illinois, getting in there. But Chicago, my niece and nephew both live in Chicago. They love Chicago. Chicago's, even though it's the Windy City and can be cold as all get out, people love the city. They love that area. So, it has a draw to it. And, if they have that, they have Coach Rome in there, they can, they'll be able to, take it. Let's crawl first and then see what they do. Take it slow.
Okay, Mel.
So they're going to have a football program at the university, at Chicago State University.
Yeah.
Detroit has a university, the University of Detroit. They play pretty good basketball.
Yeah.
They have a small student body there. I'm sure they have limited funds. Football is a very, very expensive sport because of the number of players that you have to have. Number one, the support staff that you have to have. If you're going to dream, you might as well dream big. It's good because it's going to be another opportunity for Some players have to be able to continue their football careers who may not have otherwise been able to do it. But I don't really have a whole lot to say on Chicago State University. I don't really, follow them that much. They're going to be what, FCS, FBS? Where are they playing?
Division I.
FCS or FBS?
FBS.
Oh, they're playing with the big boys.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
That's why I made the show, Mel. Some of these little hidden gems, diamond in the rough that we're going to bring out there that probably a lot of people would even bring up. Go ahead, Jeremy. I know you're going to add.
But I want to add to it, they did have 55 recruits signed there this year. That's pretty good recruits. I'm guessing at the highest was maybe a 4-star recruit that didn't make it to sign with the team due to transfer portal and everything else. But this is adding another recruitment area for Division I on the south side of Chicago, and we all know who's from there. Bad Leroy Brown.
There you go. Okay.
And of course, Polk High hero Al Bundy.
Yeah, exactly. Scored 4 touchdowns in a game.
Yeah.
Well,
Polk High, exactly.
You never know what you're going to learn here, Mel. Okay, Candy, go ahead.
So they decided to. Okay, let's first of all say their stadium is off campus. They are going to be actually playing at SeatGeek Stadium, which is in Bridgeview, Illinois. They are actually building an on-campus turf practice field. They decided to do this back in January of 2023. Chicago State formed an exploratory committee to pursue this. They hired Bobby in February of 2025. 2 months later, after they decided they were going to start this, they're going to be independent this year, and then next year they're going to the Northeast Conference. They are going to be playing Roosevelt, UT Martin, Kentucky Christian, Butler, Norfolk State, Tarleton State, North Carolina A&T, Linwood, UFTL, and Virginia Lynchburg this year. And then next year, the only one they have slated so far is North Carolina A&T. So, as someone that lived north of Chicago, north in a different state, it's always good to see different cities develop programs within, especially a city like Chicago. It's a big city, so I'm kind of surprised that they didn't already have more. But I look at like Wisconsin and Milwaukee, like they don't have football teams though either. They have, Marquette doesn't. They have basketball, but they don't have. So I can see this precipitating other schools doing that. And now that there's NIL money out there, I can see more and more kids wanting to get into sports and get some NIL money.
I've always said that Chicago is one of my favorite places I've ever been in the United States, and I've been to a lot of places. I used to cover the Detroit Lions there a lot, but some of my favorite trips occurred during Christmas time, and it was just great to go to Soldier Field. It really was. So now that Chicago is going to have a team that they can call all their own and a big metropolitan area to draw from, I don't think it's too bad. I think it intrigues me. So, all right, let's turn our attention over to the Big Easy. Okay, this is an interesting thing. And we're going to talk about the widow of Tom Benson, Gail Benson. She said, she went on record that I am not selling these teams. And the teams that she's referring to are the New Orleans Saints, who are valued at $5.63 billion, and the New Orleans Pelicans, who are valued at $4.02 billion, who recently, under Joe Dumars, hired Jamal Mosley as their coach. But think about the Bensons. Okay, they bought the Pelicans for $338 million in 2012, and now they're worth $5.63 billion. And then, and the Saints, Tom Benson bought them for $70 million in '85, and look at his return, $5.63 billion as well. Now, New Orleans is buying to host the Super Bowl in 2031 and NBA All-Star games, and there are also going to be major renovations coming to the Blender, including a revamped Champion Square. I guess they call that the Smoothie Care Center. So, hey, hats off to New Orleans, Jeremy. You know, they got two teams, and Gail Benson. Hey, these are my teams. I'm not getting rid of them. What are your thoughts about Gail Benson? Hey, you know what? I can do something with these two.
I mean, well, let's break it down for people. It's worth 5 times what their net profit is per year, because they said the cheapest teams in the NFL net after all their expensive at least $950 to $1 billion a year. So if I'm printing $1 billion a year, do I want to sell it for $5 billion? No, I want to wait till it's 10.
Okay, Ed, do the math. You like Mrs. Benson's approach? You want a Super Bowl here in Miami.
I think it's great. I think the fans are going to appreciate it. As one who, just being a Redskins fan, you know, just went through a sale, who's gone through in my lifetime two sales, Jack Kent Cook, to that owner we won't talk about, and then to the current ownership. It just makes things unstable, and I think Mrs. Benson holding on to the teams, and you know, just having things go and improve and build upon it is good. But and to Jimmy's point, you know what? If it's $5 billion now, 5 years down the road, it may be 10, 20, whatever. It's printing money for me right now. So if it's making money, why get rid of it?
I agree. Okay, Mel. Great points, Ed. Thank you.
I mean, I think a lot of people, I think there's a couple ways that you can look at it. I think for her at her age, why does she need this? She could turn around and flip this and make a ton of money and live the rest of her life and be happy. She can keep the team and make a ton of money and live the rest of her life be happy. But it's for the fans. I mean, that the New Orleans Pelicans have not been relevant in a while. The Saints, since Sean Payton left, since they won that Super Bowl, they've been competitive, but they really haven't really. They've been competitive, but they haven't really made a noise. Right now, they're down a little bit. Maybe with the coach that they have down there, they might be able to turn some things around. But I think you can look at it from a couple of different ways. If she did sell it, then it's going to be for a ton of money, and it's going to be to somebody. There's only a few people that have $10 billion laying around that could, $10-12 billion, because that's the kind of money that franchise would probably fetch somewhere in that neighborhood that could purchase that franchise. You'd have a feeling that they'd be a pretty good have some pretty good business acumen. That's a big market. It's a Super Bowl market. They like to have Super Bowls there. So that would be, that I think the Saints would bring a huge chunk of change. I think a lot of people might, because she's the spouse of the owner of the team. I remember when I was with the Rams and Georgia Frontier was there, and a lot of people wanted her to sell the franchise. She chose to hold on to it, and she was a nice lady. Can't say anything negative about her. She was a nice lady. And I think Miss Benson's a nice lady, but I think at her age, she doesn't need this. She don't need this aggravation in her life, and it might not be a bad idea to explore the opportunity, explore selling it. I know the Seahawks are for sale right now, and there haven't been, I think the market's been a little cool, a lot cooler than what the NFL or what the Seahawks thought it may have been. They thought that franchise was probably going to get about, I think it's 8-10 million or something like that. But so we'll just have to see. I think you can look at it a couple different ways.
Candy?
She said that now she turned 79 in January. She's pretty healthy. I hear that people want to talk to me about buying the team. I'm like, well, that's a waste of my time. That's not going to happen, and people need to calm down about the team moving. It remains that when I die, both teams will be sold to the highest bidder, and those proceeds will be used 100% to improve this community. She said, while it's a great gesture that the proceeds will be used to improve the New Orleans community, the citizens of the community are going to want to keep that team, and the highest bidder may decide that the purchase price can be better realized by taking the team to a bigger market. Perhaps there will be a term in the sale that makes it impossible, or at a minimum, ridiculously expensive to move the team out of town. Regardless, at this time, she's not selling those. Obviously, she doesn't need the money. So,
Right.
and if she's going to give it to charity even afterwards, there's no one that she's leaving these to as well. So, New Orleans, take advantage of the time now, because you never know if she does sell to the highest bidder, unless she puts a clause in there, they could be moved. And let's face it, a lot of teams have, if they don't produce on the field and don't have the right fan base, we've seen it before. Teams have moved and left different places. So it could be in their possibilities. So
Yeah, I don't see it going anywhere.
I don't think anybody would be upset if the Pelicans left. I don't think anybody would be upset.
No, New Orleans teams are valuable based upon the fans. Those people are legit and in the top 5 of proper fan bases, in my opinion. That is where the value is. Saints need a true stadium, and Pelicans are junk. And his next statement here, New Orleans Pelicans are as valuable as Bitcoin during the Biden administration if they were a stock. I would rather buy futures on gas and pork than luxury travel to Europe.
Good. I'm glad you read that one. I couldn't even read that thing without laughing halfway through it. So, Flores, you had to do the dirty work on that.
No problem.
That was funny, Mike. The more I see Edward, the more I like this guy. He comes up with some of this stuff. It's just like, you know what? You can read some of this stuff if I can't keep a straight face. You once laughed at me one time when you got me to laugh so hard that my hat fell off. This guy's he's trudging in that area. Good job, Michael. Good to see you again, brother. Excuse me. Those teams aren't going anywhere. And I agree with Candy, okay? Miss Benson will have a clause where you aren't going to be able to move that team anyways. That's the way that the Bensons are so devoted to New Orleans. It's ridiculous. So more power to her. We'll see whether or not Zion Williamson and the rest of that New Orleans team can play up to their potential. The hiring of Jamal Mosley will definitely help them out a little bit, because he did a sensational job in Orlando turning around a Magic team. I think Orlando may regret that firing down the road. I think they got a little impatient knowing it took them to the playoffs 3 straight years. But I think New Orleans made a good hire there. Okay, well, let's talk about our featured topic of the night. Can the Miami Hurricanes develop a quarterback? And, let's face it, they got money. They're printing money too. Mario Cristobal knows how to go ahead and use that transfer portal better than anybody I've ever seen. But Miami might as well just stop recruiting quarterbacks out of high school, so it says, because they've spent a bag on top-tier quarterbacks in the portal the last 3 years. Those we're talking about Cam Ward in 24, Carson Beck in 25, Darian Mensah 2026. So, again, they just simply can't develop quarterbacks because they're simply buying them. So, all right, Jeremy, that's what we have here. The Canes, and they had another guy, and we'll talk about this on a future show, but not now. Emory Williams, who I thought had a shot at getting a job, but injuries plagued him, and he ended up moving it well. So we'll keep the focus on just these 3 quarterbacks. You have Ward, Beck, and Mensah. So, Jeremy, give me your take on this one here with the Canes.
They better remember to take that next Polaroid quarterback they recruit and dip it in the lacquer so it doesn't fade, because they can't develop anybody.
No.
Well, either they can't or they're not gonna.
Right.
I've been around the program. Mario Cristobal is one of those. I love working with Mario. He's a really super nice guy, and he's just one of those kind of guys that knows that, hey, Miami has money, we're going to use it, and we need to get it in that position. That's where he's taking it. Okay, Ed, some thoughts.
Are we moving out of an era where college football isn't about development anymore? It's about winning right away.
Right.
Unless they do something with the transfer portal, really, is anybody developing anybody? Because it's a win. There's a really, especially in the blue bloods, there's a kind of a win now mentality with how everybody's, you can get dizzy watching the transfer portal door revolve around and around. So, I don't know. It would appear that they can't. But the question is because if we look at it, NIL money is an investment in the program. And if I'm an investor in a stock or something like that, I want my return on investment in the short term. If I'm bringing in a freshman, I'm going to redshirt him, and then I'm going to try to develop him over 4 or 5 years. He may or may not pan out, but if I go to the transfer portal, I can get somebody right now. It's a quicker return on investment.
But at the same, that's that Occam's razor. You know, develop him, but if you bring somebody in while you try to develop him and hinder him because you're not letting him start games and actually put what you're teaching him to use, are they actually using it?
Exactly.
Okay.
So that's my take on it, Scott. I don't think anybody can develop quarterbacks right now.
Well, you know what? I think you're 100% right. It really is. Everybody's looking for the quick fix to go to the transfer portal is what they are. And I have another good quarterback transfer that I'm going to get to in just a few moments. But you're right, Ed. Everybody's looking for quick. It's a win now situation is really what it is. And Miami's just taking advantage. In fact, they got a lot more money than anybody, and they can get whoever the heck they want, and they're doing it. Mel?
Well, there's so much pressure on these colleges now, and these coaches and these football programs. Yeah, Miami could develop a quarterback. I mean, at one time they developed a lot of quarterbacks. From Jim Kelly to Bernie Kosar to Vinny Testaverde to just a bunch of them. But he's made a choice that he's gonna hire the best guy. Because if you go out and recruit, you have to do it systematically. You have to have guys ready for each year or each couple of years to be prepared to step up. Now you look at Michigan; they've took a step backwards because they decided to start a true freshman this past year as opposed to going out in the transfer portal. And that was probably a part of his deal because they paid him a lot of money. It was probably part of his little sales pitch that he'll get an opportunity to start. They won't bring in a transfer, an upperclassman transfer at the University of Michigan. So it just it depends on how you want to run your program. Miami has chosen that they want to go out there and try to find the best guy out there and pay him the most money to bring him to the University of Miami, get him in their system in the spring, and then roll with it. That's his choice. That's their choice. They aren't developing players in college football anymore. They aren't doing any coaching anymore in college football in some of these big time programs. They expect these kids to come in and to be ready made. I mean, you look at some teams, that's the only way that they recruit is through the transfer portal. They're barely going and getting the high school kids because there's so much money involved. There's so much at stake. I mean, their reputation's at stake. Their jobs are at stake, because everything is dependent upon their win-loss record. It doesn't matter what type of men you're graduating, or even if you're graduating these men, it's all about wins and losses. And it's all about the mighty dollar. And I kind of hate to see the direction that college football has chosen to go. I think in the end, the players, the student athletes are going to be the ones that are going to suffer.
Andy.
Head coach Mario Cristobal's goal has been to eventually build and sustain the roster internally with high school recruits. The Hurricanes currently have several developmental and incoming prospects. They have Judd Anderson, he's the 2024 class, returning in the system for another season and competing for backup duties. Luke Nickel, 2025 class, part of Miami's in-house quarterback development. Darian Coleman, 2026 class, a former prodigy who joined the program as a true freshman to learn behind the veterans. So I think what's happening is Mario hasn't developed someone from true freshman when he first got to the program. He's been trying to supplement his starters through the transfer portal. Now, will one of these three that I just mentioned, will they work their way up to being the starter? Remains to be seen. Obviously, he went out and got Cam Ward. He got Carson Beck and Darian Mensah to supplement his starters at least these first couple of seasons. What happens next? I don't know. Does anybody, like you said, like numerous panel members have said, do they develop anybody at this level?
Well, here's a predicament that Mario Cristobal is in. Number one, he came here obviously knowing that he had to turn the program around and they haven't been relevant many years. So first of all, he tried to have a couple of guys. I think one of the guys that went to Wisconsin, Tyler Van Dyke, I think, but he was injury prone. Emory Williams, I mentioned him up. He got hurt, and all of a sudden, this is setting his program back. Now he finds, listen, I need some instant help here. It's like hot chocolate when I have instant hot chocolate after a day on the paper route. You need that instant. I don't know if that's a good analogy, but he needed that instant help right away to get the program back to prominence. So now that you got the money coming in, so that he can ultimately do it his way. I just think it's taken him a little bit longer, and I understand why he's using every tool in his pocket to do it. So I get it. Jeremy, go ahead. I know you had something to say. I had to get that out.
We do have somebody that's being developed that got NIL money right away here in the Big Ten, and that's Bryce Underwood.
Right.
Because he got paid by Michigan. He stayed at Michigan. He didn't transfer when his coach was let go. And he's staying here underneath Kyle Whittingham, and I think that's a great move myself for him.
Well, who's going to pay him the money? Who's going to pay him the kind of money that Michigan paid him based on how he performed last year?
I just think it was good for him to stay with one program is all I was getting at.
Oh, yeah, and not only that, Jeremy, not only you write about him staying with one program, you got Kyle Whittingham is a big upgrade over Sharon Moore. Give me a break. Look at the staff he's gone in. I don't want to get too far off topic, but I know where you're going with this, Jeremy. I really do, but I'm dealing with the situation here in my backyard. Right. Mario Cristobal is you're dealing with a steep tradition in Miami, known for developing quarterbacks. And think about it, these quarterbacks are getting drafted. Ward got drafted number 1, and obviously Beck got drafted, and I'll get to him next week. I don't want to talk about it now because I have too much to get to. And then we'll see what happens with Mensa. So, it's a situation where I'm looking forward as the year goes on where it goes. But I saw Emory Williams. I thought this guy had a really legitimate chance to be the successor. It just never worked out. And I interviewed Emory Williams last year's pro day. Well, you talk about one of the nicest kids on the planet. This kid, along with Ray Joseph, I think, are both at East Carolina. I'll get to that another day, but I just wanted to mention that attempts have been made to do it, but they've had to go this route first. Okay. As I promised, let's talk about another transfer as well as this all works out pretty well. Florida State added much needed depth quarterback to the roster in Lafayette College's Dean Nobile. Last season, he threw for 2,528 yards and 19 touchdowns. Mike Norvell knows he needed them. Now, let's not kid yourself. Mike Norvell knows he could be on the hot seat if this doesn't get straightened out pretty quick up in Tallahassee. Jeremy, go on.
He better hope that this helps his team get better, because otherwise FSU is going to be looking for another coach. No matter how much they pay him, they will cut him. And I don't blame them, because you know what? You give a coach that kind of money, you expect results. This is year 3. He had his 2 years of experimental stuff. This one better work.
Well, part of the problem there, though, Jeremy, is Florida State doesn't have the money that Florida has. That's why they had to ride him out a third year. If FSU had deeper pockets like the University of Florida does, then he would have been gone last year. But yeah, I agree with you, Jeremy. This will make a rig year, and Mr. McAndrew's going to continue this topic.
Oh, I think I agree with Jeremy there. I mean, it's year 3. He's had his opportunities, and he's in the ACC, and he's got to start winning. I mean, he's got to be able to play and hang with the big boys, and to be able to get himself into the, what are we at now, 16, or is the number for the football tournament? Are we at 16 now? I guess, yeah. So he's got to be able to get himself in, and it goes back to what we were saying in the last segment. 3 years, you got to win. You got to be, boosters and NIL money is big now. You're playing with big money, and those people want to see championships. They don't want to see second place, is the first place last, as they say. So,
Katie, go to that last comment in the chat room. I love everything Eddie Fraser puts up. That's the giveaway one to give away, but FSU was punting for 26. I think he's right. I really think that Juan's on the
Juan Manuel Ventura, it looks like.
Yeah, Juan's dead on with this one. Mel, go ahead.
Well, Florida State is one of those programs, a very proud program, and they've been accustomed to winning. I mean, he's been there. Mike Norvell is still the coach there, right?
Yeah, for how
He's
long?
been there.
One
He's
more
been
year,
there
at
for a
least.
while. He had that 1 year where they were, if it wasn't for the fact that the quarterback got hurt, that they would have had an opportunity to get to the postseason. But because their quarterback got hurt, I think they kept him out of the postseason. But Indiana makes it tough for everybody. And what Kurt Signetti was able to do over there, there are no excuses, especially for a program like Florida State that's been accustomed to dominating the ACC. When Bobby Bowden was there, I mean, Florida State is a proud program now. They were paying players back then, but with car dealer money and stuff like that, they don't have the tech money like the Big Ten does. It's very difficult for them to compete money wise. If they wanted to get rid of Norvell, they could have found the money to get rid of him and move on. But I think maybe they're starting to realize who they are, where they are in this current climate, and trying to figure out exactly how they fit in this current climate right now. Virginia Tech just swung big, and they hired James Franklin. That conference didn't get any easier without question. And it's going to continue to get more and more competitive. In Miami, they're doing what they're doing, and for a long time, it was those two, Miami and Florida State, they were battling it out for conference supremacy. Yep. Clemson came along and started dominating the league for a while. So we'll just have to wait and see. But I thought they would have gotten rid of him last year after their showing. They could have found the money if they wanted to, but I think they just just chose to ride it out.
Katie?
Mike Norvell has been there since 2020. In his first year, that he went 3-6. 21, they went 5-7. 22, 10-3. 2023 is when they went 13-1. 2024, they really regressed to 2-10, and last year they were 5-7. He makes almost $10 million a year, $9.785 million. His record is 38-34. He needs to do better in order to keep his job, because they're not going to keep him around in this day of NIL if he's not producing more winning seasons than the losing seasons. So,
well, there's no question it's a make or break year. Let's go back to college football. I'm relying on that a little bit now because we have a point during the football season where we could get around to college football a little bit more, and I have more pro material coming. But, this is a good time of the year for us to be able to get both of them involved, because you got the transfer portal, you got schedules being set up, and now I'm trying to talk about FBS and FCSTs going back and forth. So it's a perfect night, and we're glad that Ed McAndrew has now become a permanent part of Inside the Big Ten. Ed's doing a whale of a job so far. So Ed, let's talk about some of the most watched championship games in college football. And we're going to go back to 2006 when Texas and USC had 35.6 million viewers. That was in 2006. 33.7 million. So Ohio State against Oregon, that was a pretty good matchup there. 30, and then in 2010, Alabama, Texas drew 30.8 million viewers, and Indiana, Miami, obviously the one we just got done, 30.1 million viewers. So with that said, Jeremy, as we talk about this, what does that say about the state of college football and the way they are able to get some big numbers of these championship games?
It proves that the FBS championship is going to be like the Super Bowl for the NFL, the most watched game in that realm of football. But at the same time, I think it fell in between the NBA Finals last year and the MLB World Series. The one championship that doesn't get watched anymore, except by the two fan bases where they're at, is the Stanley Cup Finals. It's amazing how low their Nielsen ratings is.
Don't tell that to my hockey man sitting next to you.
That's all right. It was funny. Hockey is not is down here in the U.S. Hockey is not a mainstream sport. And if you just watch ESPN or have it on, they talked hoops basically all day as opposed to any hockey. with that great game that was on last night between the Sabres and the Canadians.
Yeah,
but anyway, I digress.
All right.
I think it'll be interesting to see as obviously the tournament or the bracket is going to expand just like it's doing in college basketball. At some point, a non-blue blood is going to slide into that, or two non-blue bloods is going to slide into that championship game. What will it be? What will the ratings be then?
It makes you wonder. I thought it's funny how you say that, Ed, too, because I thought because there were a couple of outsiders that cracked the party this year that the games would be more competitive, but they were not. They were blowouts. So, but we'll see as this story is definitely developing. I just want to make sure we brought up those numbers here based on the Miami numbers and the other one. But you know what, Ed? Now that you're a part of this show permanently, you and I and the rest of us on this crew, then get ready. This crew is going to be pretty much the same crew going forward. I may have a few auditions here and there, but this is your group of 5 right here for Inside the Pigskin going forward. So this is a story we're going to continue to follow up on, and we're far from through with this one, Eddie, just so you know. Okay, go ahead, Mel.
Well, a non-blue blood did crack it last year and won it. Indiana's not a blue blood. I mean, maybe in basketball they're considered a blue blood, but they're certainly not considered a blue blood in football. Yeah. But now they are going to be looked at a little bit differently. But college football, I mean, football is king right now. Whatever kind of football, people just can't get enough of it. You're talking about hockey. Yeah. After they had that lockout a number of years ago, I think the network kind of punished them when they came back. I think they were like on USA or something like that. I mean, they were on some really garbage channels before they started getting back on ESPN, who they consider themselves to be the worldwide leader. And, a lot of the talking heads, unfortunately, look like me, and we don't play hockey. And so we don't know anything about hockey to talk about. And so they might give them a segment, but I mean, if they're talking about wrestling on ESPN, they can talk about hockey. Because exactly. I don't consider. I mean, I have no respect for those shows now anymore since they brought in wrestling. I mean, this is not Entertainment Tonight. It's supposed to be. We're supposed to be talking about sports. These guys are supposed to be serious journalists, but yet they're talking about wrestling, and that really, I can't take him seriously. I can't take Stephen A. seriously when he's talking to a wrestler. So that kind of throws me off. Yeah. But football is king. I mean, they've done a very, very good job. College football has done a very, very good job of marketing their product. Extremely good job, just like the NFL has done a good job of marketing their product. People can't get enough of it. That's why we have spring football right now. I mean, their numbers may not be as good as they would like for them to be, but they just keep at it. Those numbers will continue to improve as they get some guys like Diego Pavia to go into the league, because that's where he's probably going to land, is somewhere in the UFL playing spring football. I don't see him playing on Sundays. He just doesn't have the physical tools and traits that you look for somebody to be your starting quarterback or even a backup quarterback on an NFL roster. But it doesn't surprise me, the numbers, and the numbers are just going to continue to grow. I mean, why are they expanding the field? Because they want to get more eyeballs. They want more teams to get in there. They want more money. It's all about money. Everything is money driven.
Doesn't Winnipeg have his rights in the CFL, I believe? Not sure who has his rights in the CFL, but we'll see. Although they say he has a chance to make the team as a backup. Time will tell with that. Candy, go ahead and close it out.
I know you were crushed by that, Scott, because you thought somebody should have taken a flyer on him. I think you were saying Cleveland. Somebody take him in the second, third round. I mean, you were really high on Diego Pavia. I know that.
Come on, Mel, give me some slack. This kid he's a good kid. He convinced me.
Can you go back in the archives and pull some of his footage up? Scott was saying,
hey, Mel, this is our first show back. Give me a couple before you smack me around. I'm still jet lagged. I gave you guys an extra week off so I could take the hit. And now he's smacking me around. Okay, wait a couple weeks and then stick it to me. All right, whatever. You're right. He was undrafted. Nobody wanted him until the Ravens took him. You made your point, Mel, and a darn good one, I might add. Go ahead, Candy.
Scott, what did you say was the most watched? Which game?
The most watched one, Candy, is Texas USC, is what I have in front of me right now at 35.6 million. Is you're going to tell me something else popped in?
That was a Rose Bowl?
It was a Rose Bowl. What I'm reading is that the note was the official Nielsen adjusted ratings have varying figures, but this Rose Bowl matchup holds the peak estimated household viewership. Yes, they said 35.6 million. They say the actual top one was the 2015 national championship between Ohio State versus Oregon. Now that one only comes in at 33.9 million, but they're saying that
all right, so it's adjusted. All right, don't take your research at such a level where you're making an idiot out of yourself. So I'm off by, I go by my sources when I come up with it. If you want to go ahead and do that, that's up to you. What you need to do once in a while, young lady, is focus on the picking topic and look at how this thing has grown. I don't have to be corrected by 200,000 here. I mean, my numbers that I have here are what they are, Candy.
Okay.
You understand?
Yep.
So you have four choices. Right now, it looks like Texas USC with Vince Young, obviously, is the leader of the dog, and Indiana Miami cracked the party with their 30.1 million.
You're right.
Anything else you want to add to it that you can add substance to this?
Nope, I'll leave it at that.
Okay, good. All right, because now we're going to stay with Indiana because Indiana Hoosiers quarterback Alberto Mendoza committed to Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, and I think this is good. He got his ring over in Indiana, has a chance to develop his own identity, is what he does. So, Jeremy, what are your thoughts about the other Mendoza going to Georgia Tech? Do you think that's a good fit? Jeremy?
It could be. I wished he'd have stayed because I'd like to have seen what Kurt Signetti would do with him. But
okay.
I think, yes, it's a good move for him.
Okay. Ed?
I would agree. I think as much as we would all like to have seen the pressure that would have been on that young man, just living in his brother's kind of shadow, if you will.
Yeah.
As much as we would say like, oh no, it would just be the fan base would be doing it. And I think him going to Georgia Tech, playing down in the ACC might, he can kind of be his own person, kind of make his own ways. I mean, granted, as being the brother of the Heisman Trophy first draft pick of the NFL, the younger brother, I don't know how much in anonymity that you can actually live, but if you could, stepping away from the school where you were both at might help.
No.
I think he made a business decision. I mean, right after the national championship game or whenever the portal opened or Indiana brought in somebody, I can't remember exactly who it was. And I think he was looking at, that quarterback room and he already had to take a back seat to his brother because he had his brother come there. He was there initially and then told his brother to come there, and his brother comes there and he has a, outstanding year and wins the Heisman Trophy. And like you guys say, he was the number one pick in the draft. I think he made a business decision. It could have had to do with the fact he might have wanted to be closer to home. He may not have wanted to play in his brother's shadow. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Georgia Tech does have an opening there. There is open competition with the people that they brought in. From what I've read, he's looked very good. Right now, he's the leader in the clubhouse. So it'll be interesting to see how well he's able to perform here at Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech's a tough school to win at, in the ACC. I mean, they've been playing well as of late, pretty well as of late. But it'll be interesting to see. And I look forward to seeing him out there playing with the Yellow Jackets.
Candy?
He was told that he would not necessarily be the starting quarterback, so he decided he wanted to go to some place where he thought he had a better chance. His first week opponent is going to be Deion Sanders at Colorado.
How about that, Deion? You know what? Again, if you're being told you're not going to be the starting quarterback over in Indiana, why not make the move to Georgia Tech? Yeah. And I think, and one thing everybody's been consistent on the panel, everybody has been, is why be in your brother's shadow and you already got the chip anyways? You want to see what you can do on your own, and Georgia Tech seems like a really good opportunity for him. All right, so we all know about defense winning championships, and this goes back to what happened during the Super Bowl. And Seattle proved that worthy again, by only allowing 16.9 points per game, and the yards were only 295.3. I can break down all the numbers here, but let's just try to make the topic for whatever it's worth. But Denver proved that point in 2015, 17.9 points per game. Seattle again pulled the trick in 2013 at 14.3 points per game. Pittsburgh Steelers 15 points in 2008. 2002, the Bucks at 12.3 points per game, and the Ravens 9.4. Jeremy, if that doesn't summarize defense win championship game, tell me what does.
Let's go back even further. What about defense ending the undefeated run of the Patriots with Eli Manning?
There you go.
I mean, so defense always wins. If you can stop the run game and make a team one-dimensional, you win. And that's what they did.
Yeah, I mean, Seattle, again, defense, they did what, and amazingly enough, the Seahawks are in this list twice in this century. They really are. What they did in 13, and then they followed that recipe in 25. So, all right, Ed.
I think it's true in any sport. Football is no different. Defense wins offense wins games, defense wins championships. And that's, if I can shut you out and score 3 points, I win. I don't have to score a lot. I just have to score more than you. And if I can stop you, and to Jeremy's point, if you make them one-dimensional, if you take the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands, and they don't really, and you say, you got to beat me with your running backs.
If we can only find a way to take the ball out of the ref's hands from giving it back to Pat Mahomes, he'd never have
exactly. Jeremy's a walking Patrick Mahomes meme. I think it just goes without saying.
Okay. Mel?
All the rules are tilted towards the offense. The NFL wants fans like to see points. They like to see fireworks. But at the end of the day, you have to be able to dominate the line of scrimmage. You have to be able to run the football. You have to be able to stop the run, and you have to be able to stop somebody. And so, like Ed said, offense wins games, defense wins championship. And you look, that's proven by the stat that you just recited there. That you have to be. Football is played by big men moving fast, and you have to be able to stop people. And conversely, you got to be able to run the football when the other team knows you're going to run the football. So yeah, that stat doesn't surprise me.
Andy?
Doesn't surprise me. I'll go back to 1997. The Minister of Defense, Reggie White, 3 sacks to help the Packers beat the New England Patriots in the Super Bowl. Never forget it. Loved every minute of it. Minister of Defense. Defense wins championships.
Well, you want to sit here and go back and use that. I like talked about what happened this century. I can tell you about the no-name defense and all these other ones. But these facts back up when you're dealing, like Mel said, at a time where passing is dominating and the Seahawks still managed to win it. One way to lose your job is the way Kawisi Adolfo Masai did with the Minnesota Vikings, because he had zero Pro Bowlers drafted by him for the Minnesota Vikings, and when he was hired in 2022. Jeremy, you follow that division a lot. This is a great way to lose your job if you're this guy here.
You're talking about the former Vikings?
Yeah.
Adolfo Kwesi?
Yeah,
I think he went to that Leering Center instead of the Learning Center about football. Let's draft the guy that was a handoff merchant at Michigan against all the top 5 schools they faced.
Oh, he's one of those analytic ones, huh?
Yeah. He went off of PFF scores for J.J. McCarthy.
Oh, is that way? Oh, okay. Thanks for clarifying. What do you think, Ed? You don't get no Pro Bowlers, you're in trouble. You got to get these things right, man.
Yeah, I mean, you do. I mean, if you don't get the Pro Bowler level players, you're not going to win games. If you don't win games, you're not going to put people in the seats. You don't put people in the seats, you're not going to put money in the pockets, and you're not going to win championships. And that's what it comes down to. It's about the money, as Mel, I think, said in an earlier segment. Everything is money driven. Yep.
Yeah, well, you're right. Everything is money driven, Ed, and that's exactly what happened. And that's why this guy's got a pink slip because he couldn't even develop a Pro Bowler, and he had 0. You got to hit on these draft choices, and evidently this guy didn't do it. JJ McCarthy, listen, I understand that. I think the jury's still out on this guy, so I'm not going to write him off yet. But right now, the word 0 to me is not a numeral here that a GM should really feel good about, especially in this particular sense of the connotation of 0. Go ahead, Mel.
So what are you saying? All the players that he's drafted, none of them have made the Pro Bowl? Is that what you're saying? Or they just didn't have any guys that made the Pro Bowl last year? You're saying all of his draft picks, none of them have made the Pro Bowl?
Yeah, because he's only drafted the last 3 seasons.
Okay.
None of them have made the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, but I think that the core. I think JJ McCarthy was probably the one that sealed the deal for him. Like you said, I mean, everybody said it. I mean, I don't know. The film doesn't lie, and I don't go based on what he did at the combine or how he looked on his pro day or anything like that. I go based on the film, and that they played one game. I think it was against Penn State, and he didn't throw the ball one time. That if they don't trust him to throw the football at the collegiate level, why would you draft him? I think 10th overall at the pro level when
and
we're playing.
Up.
When we're okay, so you traded up, so you gave up some draft capital to move up to get this guy, and we're playing in a league right now where everybody is pass happy, and this guy is deficient in that area. Had some games where he maybe made a throw or two, but for the most part, that's not what he was asked to do. And so there's nothing on film that I saw that showed me that this guy could play the position a different way. So that's probably what sealed his fate. If he was the one that really pushed to have him drafted and to move up to get him, that probably was the nail in the coffin for him. Him not, and then you bring in Sam Darnold and he does what he does. He has the great year that he has. And then he goes off and wins the Super Bowl, obviously this year. It's just an indictment on on their scouting department. I don't know what it is they saw in him. He's obviously the head of that. He made the decision. It's his pick. I'm assuming if it wasn't his pick, he's the one that has to fall on the sword and, kind of take the heat for it.
Candy?
What really kind of boggles my mind is that he attended and earned his bachelor's degree in economics from Princeton. Mm-hmm. He was a walk-on to the Princeton Tigers men's basketball team. He earned his master's degree in economics from Stanford. Before he even began in the NFL, he had several ventures as a portfolio manager and commodities trader of Wall Street. I get back in 2013, then he began his NFL career following a chance meeting with the team's executive vice president of football operations and NFL cap and contract manager. But he doesn't have a background in football. What possessed them to think that he was going to be a smart evaluator of talent if he hadn't played, didn't have a lot of background in football? The business size I get, but to scout talent and then bring them in, that's where I have a question mark.
He's an analytics guy.
Yeah, and you know what, Candy? I'll say on this take that you have, that's a bullseye. That's what I'm looking for. Because the guy doesn't have a football background. You bring in a guy like with an analytics takes you so far. At some point, you have to have a little bit of football sense. This guy didn't have it. And obviously, when you get a goose egg for all the wrong reasons, that's why this guy's unemployed. I find it hard to see him even get a job ever as a general manager again with this on his track record. They could probably find him a position elsewhere in the organization, but not a general manager position, arguably the most important role in the organization. Go ahead, Katie. I know you're looking to say something.
Well, he was hired February 24th of 2026. The San Francisco 49ers hired him as a personnel executive.
Okay.
Second stint in San Francisco.
Okay. So what's the point?
That he was hired, that he's still in football, but he's just not the general manager role.
All right, well, that's fine. Keep him on the GM chair. You can stick him up there and you can do whatever he needs to do, but keep him away from the decision because obviously he didn't do a very good job of it. One guy who could have had a head coaching job, and I think he'll get one eventually, and he's long overdue for a second chance, is Brian Flores, who was among the final candidates who interviewed by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay, Jeremy, we've talked about Flores many, many times, right? And obviously, I don't think it's a matter of if, it's a matter of when, because his name is going to be mentioned every year. At some point, do you think he's going to get a head coaching job? And that's the question is going to be for you and everybody else, Jeremy.
Well, the only if question is if he drops his lawsuit against the two teams in question in his lawsuit, because
Right.
there is an NFL rule stating if any coach has any type of lawsuit against any member of the NFL in an organizational leadership role, they cannot be a head coach again. So until either A, it gets settled, or B, he drops the suit, he won't be a head coach.
Fair enough. And obviously, Eddie Prather says they'll regret not hiring. They probably will, but obviously because of what Jeremy did when he clarified why he can't become one, that's the only thing holding him back. Eddie?
Yeah, I mean, what Jeremy said. I mean, I'm if let's say all of that was under the it was done and taken care of, however that plays out. Yeah, I think eventually you would think he'd get in somewhere, but it's kind of like you have to get your foot into that circle because it seems like there's a lot of retreads out there that get extra opportunities. It's like look at what's his name from Baltimore, retires, says I'm going to take a break, and now he's the head coach of the Giants.
Oh, you're talking about John Harbaugh?
Yeah,
no, he didn't retire. He got fired.
Yeah, he got.
Well, that's right. He got. Yeah, that's. I was. You know what? I was thinking of. I was thinking of the guy out of Pittsburgh. Sorry, my old.
Mike Tomlin. You're probably thinking.
Yeah, Mike Tomlin retired.
Right. Okay.
But which was kind of ironic. Those two guys kind of going out together. But no, I think he'll get his shot at some point.
See, here's the thing. I don't think Flores should have ever been fired by the Miami Dolphins because now they're back to square one anyway. That was a bad move all the way around. He obviously didn't see a lot in Tua. Obviously, now everybody's finding out that Tua wasn't as good as he thought. And Flores is trying to pump a little toughness in him. And now we saw that disaster in Miami. Go ahead, Mel.
Flores may never get another shot at a head coaching job, but this is bigger than him. Because there's no Al Davis out there. Al Davis was a Maverick; he'd hire him, but there's no owner out there that's like an Al Davis out there right now. So he'll probably never get hired again as a head coach. But this is bigger than him, and he's doing it not just for himself. He's doing it for all the other coaches of color that come behind them to make sure that they get a fair shake and a fair opportunity at becoming a head coach in the National Football League. Since the league is represented mostly by African Americans, we're the ones that play it the most. We should be, we should have that type of representation in the coaching area as well. I mean, you look at basketball teams. Basketball, they don't have this kind of problem. In the NFL, in the NFL, for whatever reason, we have that kind of problem where, having African Americans in leadership positions, whether it's general managers, whether it's head coaches, whether it's offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators. So this is bigger than him, and he understands it. I'm sure they've come to him and said, "Hey, go ahead and settle this, and we'll get you a head coaching gig." I'm sure they probably come to him many times through back channels, and he's dug his heels in the ground. He understands this is bigger than him. This is about him, and he's not going to sell out. He's not selling out just for himself because this here is much bigger than Brian Flores.
Candy?
I agree, Eddie. Yeah. Do I see Brian Flores getting another head coaching job? I don't know if by the time that they would, if he would still want one at that point. It all depends. I mean, I could see it. I can see it. But the logistics, the legal stuff has to take care of itself first before that happens. I think going to Miami is kind of like almost a suicide, kind of, if you will. They just don't. Ross just doesn't give you the money. I mean, and let's be honest. It's not the only franchise down in Miami that I would say that about as well.
No, I hear you. I know where you're going. You're right on point. Okay, great stuff, Candy. All right, so let's talk about something that I feel occurred many years ago when Matt Millen, was in charge of the Lions. But I want to get into the logistics of that. But Jeremy probably knows where I'm going with it, anyways. In fact,
are you talking about the decade of despair?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, so and don't get me going there, JV. But let's talk about the fact that the Browns interviewed Commanders run game coordinator and running back coach Anthony Lynn for the head coaching job that ultimately went to Todd Monken. To me, it looked like, Jeremy, that this was not a legitimate head coaching interview at all. I think it was a token interview to satisfy the Rooney Rule. What are your thoughts?
Exactly. Anthony Lynn wasn't even that good of a head coach when he was with Buffalo. He went there and basically failed with Justin Herbert as a rookie.
Right.
All because his team doctors that he instructed to fix Tyrod Taylor in that game punctured his lung. I mean, you want to talk about a plethora of things going wrong, and Anthony Lynn lost his play calling job with Detroit after week 9. We didn't even have a non-losing game until Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson took over the play calling in week 10 versus Pittsburgh. Where here in Detroit, we celebrated, yay, a tie. And Pittsburgh looked like they opened clothing on Christmas.
That was a token hire, Jeremy. If I ever saw one. That was. I mean, that token interview, excuse me. That was. If I ever saw one to satisfy the Rooney Rule, that's one. And I'm going to talk about a guy next week. I'm not going to give it away tonight of one that I think took place because I don't want to mention it here. I just want to focus on what we have to do. But that was a token interview if I ever saw one. And
I think it goes without saying. I think it was to suffice the Rooney Rule and move forward. It was, they were able to check a box.
That's it. Yeah. Checking a box is what you just did, and you're right on target. Mel?
I don't know if that's a fact or not. I don't know how many head coaches they hired. I don't know how many African-American coaches they hired. How many African-American coaches. I don't know how many coaches they interviewed. I don't know how many African-American coaches they interviewed during that interviewing process. And Anthony Lynn, he deserves another opportunity just like any other guys, just like anyone else has had multiple opportunities to fail. He deserves to have multiple opportunities to fail as well. He wasn't any worse of a coach than Nathaniel Hackett, and he's able to continue getting jobs over and over and over again. People still, he's still highly regarded in circles. I think he's got a job somewhere. I can't remember where he's at now. Was he with Kansas City or something? I can't remember who he's with, but. No, I think he's down in Arizona, I think, or Las Vegas. I think it might be in Las Vegas. I'm not sure. But anyway, he keeps resurfacing. His name just continues to resurface after he didn't last a year in Denver. So, I mean, I believe, regardless of what I think of Anthony Lynn personally as a head coach, based on, what he's done, I believe he has, I believe he has every right to fail as many times as anybody else.
Nathaniel Hackett is an offensive coordinator for the Arizona Cardinals.
I think you're right. Is the opportunity to fail? All I'm talking about, Mel, is in this particular situation that interview he ended up getting up in with the Browns was a token interview just to satisfy the Rooney Rule.
I don't know who else they interviewed. That's why I said that. I don't know if he was the only one that they interviewed. If there were other African American candidates that they looked at, if there are other minority candidates that they looked at, I don't know.
Do you know, Jeremy?
I'm looking it up for you right now.
Yeah, I mean, right now on the surface, it says Matt Millen.
Look who they hired. So, I mean, I can't say definitively that's just a token interview based on who they hired.
Well, to be honest, if you want my real opinion on that whole coaching search, Jim Schwartz should have gotten a damn job in the first place. Monken shouldn't have gotten it. That's just what I've been thinking all along. But Monken did get it, and I think Anthony Lynn got the token interview. That's what I really think. I think the Browns they blew this one. Then again they blow it anyways. But okay, who's doing the research on this?
Okay, so here is their list. It was Anthony Lynn, Todd Monken, Arden Durday, Dan Pitcher, Jesse Minter, Joe Brady, Jeff Hafley, John Harbaugh, and Mike McDaniel is everybody they interviewed.
Well, Mike McDaniel didn't even want the job. I think didn't he pull himself out of it? If I recall correctly, he pulled himself out of it and said, "I'm going with Jim Harbaugh instead."
Did you hear all of that?
I don't know. Mike
Mike
McDaniel.
Mike McDaniel. I mean, he's
Well, he's considered a minority candidate, if I understand correctly, isn't he?
He took it. Yeah, so it was him and Anthony Lynn were the only two. So that filled the Rooney Rule thing.
Exactly. That's what I'm asking you, Jeremy. Okay, thanks for
But he did take his first interview. Yeah, he did take his first interview for Mike McDaniel. He turned down the second because he accepted the job with Jim Harbaugh.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that. Appreciate it. Okay.
So Mike McDaniel interviewed first. Anthony Lynn interviewed after that.
Yep.
Yeah. Everybody spoken on this one?
Yeah, it's
Candy,
good.
did you? Candy, do you think it was a token interview?
I did. I thought it was a token interview. And I, again, think that there are some assistant coaches that are just better as assistant coaches than they would be as head coaches. And we've had that before, and we've seen that. Nathaniel Hackett is one. Like there's a couple of others that have tried it, didn't succeed. Now maybe it was the situation and the job that they went to that they accepted, but there are sometimes offensive or defensive coordinators are just better in that role.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think it was a token interview. I don't think there's any question that Anthony Lynn went there. And okay, give me 2, 3, 4 hours. Why can't you do the job? See you later. One down. McDaniel was the other one. I'll stay true to that comment if I have to, and because I do truly believe in my mind that it is. Okay, well, according to Pittsburgh Steelers owner Art Rooney II, new head coach Mike McCarthy believes Will Howard has tremendous upside and is excited about the opportunity to develop him with his offense. Obviously, one of our lead stories next week will be Aaron Rodgers re-signing with the Steelers. So let's focus on Will Howard himself, Jeremy. What are your thoughts about Will Howard and his future in Pittsburgh?
It makes you wonder because they drafted one on day 2 again with Drew Aller.
Right.
So it makes you wonder if they trust him at all. Was he actually learning the playbook last season, or was he just sitting there fuming because he was an early pick that didn't get a chance to start? And then, let's face it, until May 17th, he was going to be the starter.
Right.
And then May 17th comes, and for $17 million plus incentives that could equal $26 million, Aaron Rodgers comes back.
Right.
And what does he do? He takes a hard left turn and ends up having to ride a scooter the rest of the day, first day of OTAs. No, just kidding.
Well, no, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, but you know what? You're not that far off. Here's what's going to end up happening anyways. Number one, no, you're really, I mean, I don't know what they're going to do with Mason Rudolph. That's another story. And we're not talking about it tonight. But think about it. From what I've heard, Drew Aller's been told, forget about what you had last year and tear it up and throw it out the window. You're starting all over again. So this guy's a developmental guy if I ever saw one. Mason Rudolph is your number 2, and we'll see what Will Howard can do. And that's what I'm thinking. Again, I could be wrong. I'm just speculating based on what I'm seeing in front of me right now. But this stuff changes week to week. Ed, okay, what's going on?
Will Howard's wishing there was a transfer portal in the NFL right about now.
Yeah,
he's looking for the NFL transfer portal and saying, where can I go to become whatever it is that I'm going to become? And I'm sure when they drafted the quarterback and then he saw Rodgers resign, he let a couple expletives probably fly, because I can't imagine that was happy with each one of those, as he probably thought Rodgers was going to ride off into the sunset, and he'd get to the keys to the castle. But then I mean, Mike McCarthy coming in, it's kind of it's the Green Bay marriage now in Pittsburgh. So we'll have to see how that all plays out.
Mel?
I think it's a great situation for whoever ends up being the number 2 quarterback. I mean, I like Mason Rudolph a little bit. He's gotten some starts in the league. Yeah, I don't know why people just are so quick to write him off. I mean, you look at Pittsburgh, all their quarterbacks, they look a certain way. They're all big, 6'4", 6'5", other than Aaron. They're big guys, sturdy guys. Big Ben was a big, sturdy guy. They're looking for another big, sturdy guy to stand in there in the pocket. I think it's a great situation for whoever ends up being the number 2 quarterback. And I think it's a great situation for the Pittsburgh Steelers as well. You have some real competition. These guys need to compete, and the cream is going to rise to the top. And you'll find out which one of these guys really wants that, wants that job to be the number 1 quarterback, or in this particular case, to back up Aaron Rodgers and have an opportunity. This isn't Aaron Rodgers from 2010. This is Aaron Rodgers from 2026. Yeah. So there's really nothing to be upset about. He's not going to be there forever. A year, 2 years, maybe max. You get an opportunity to learn from one of the best. You can't and collect a check while you're doing it. You can't ask for a better situation than that. And then when it's your time, because Mike McCarthy, he's done this before. He's gone through this process before. And then, when it's his time, when it's that person's time, whoever it is that rises to the top, they'll be ready to go because they got an offensive-minded coach and Mike McCarthy, who really understands how to develop quarterbacks. He's been in this situation before. Obviously, him and Aaron have a prior relationship. Right. But I think this is a great situation for a young quarterback coming into the league. And I think it's a great situation for the Pittsburgh Steelers because you have competition at every other position on the field. You need to have competition in the quarterback room as well.
Candy?
We've all discussed before how the Packers they draft and develop their quarterbacks. They don't throw them in right away. How much better a situation can you have with McCarthy? He's praised Howard, said that he's got an excellent work ethic. He's improved his conditioning, his footwork. Remember, he also Howard missed last year, his entire rookie year, due to a fluke preseason hand injury. So he's still coming off an injury as well. Aaron Rodgers, yes, he is aging. He's not got a lot of years left in him. Right. You never know. He could go out with an injury too. So do you want to be that number 2 behind? So I think Will Howard's in a really good spot. Yes, Aaron Rodgers is not going to play forever, much to the chagrin of some people. And we'll see. It's also going to be a competition. Who's going to outdo who?
Yeah, you know what, Ken, you make a good point. I think the real competition, though, is going to be, I don't know so much about Drew Aller being part of the competition. He's one of those guys that you have to just sit here and start all over with, like you had in Urban Meyer with Trevor Lawrence. Forget about what you learned in your first year when, obviously, he was replaced by Doug Peterson. But that's the situation. Just throw it away, rest of your year, be done with it. But now in Aller's case, you're talking about a guy you're just starting all over with, whereas Howard hadn't been healthy, and Mason Rudolph is your dependable backup. So everybody on this panel really is on point with what they're saying. You got 2 young guys that can hold a clipboard. Can one remain healthy for an entire year? While you have Rudolph and Rodgers leading, because again, it's a long year to begin with. All right, let's go. I have a few Lions topics I want to get to because I have Mr. Lion in the background anyway. So we'll talk about Mike Kafka joined the Lions in a high-ranking offensive role. The 38-year-old has been a finalist for multiple head coaching roles. Jeremy, give me your thoughts about the mindset between the Lions hiring Mike Kafka. And then if everybody else wants to, this is now optional for a couple of these topics. You can chime in. I'm not going to call on anybody. You just go ahead. Go ahead, Jeremy. What's the logic behind bringing on Kafka?
I think it was a brilliant move because Petzing is more of a running play action type of coach, and he's going to be the head coach ultimately deciding what playbook they go with. But Mike Kafka and his offensive passing technique, able to utilize the spread option, as we saw, even Jameis Winston had a dominating day without Malik Neighbors on the field versus the Lions that day when he took over as interim head coach. They just couldn't win. because that whole team had to get out of that mindset. They, as for the Giants, I think they said out of their plethora of losses, 8 of them, which is an NFL record, were at a point in the fourth quarter where by FanDuel standards, they had a 98% chance of winning and lost. So they need to learn how to get past that. There's a lot of teams that have that issue. Go back, go all day. Thank you for hopping in. And you're right. The Packers do love to develop most of their players, except at some skilled positions where it's just natural talent gets there, such as wide receiver and cornerback.
So then my question to you, Jeremy, is this. Everybody else can chime in. Do you feel that was a home run hire bringing on Kafka, Jeremy?
100%, because if the Petzing project is failing as offensive coordinator and he's his assistant, you don't have to depend on Dan Campbell to be play calling. You can just switch who's doing it because they're both familiar with the playbook that's right there in front of them.
All right. Anybody else have any thoughts about it? What about you, Ed?
You know what? I don't know enough to really say. So I'll have to just kind of take Jeremy's word. It's going to be,
Well, Kafka's good offensive mind. He really is. And again, he said the biggest thing here, take away with what Jeremy said, is if Jameis Winston had a pretty good game, can you imagine how much Jared Goff is going to benefit? It's okay. Yeah. Hey, Ed, there's nothing wrong with deferring once in a while if you're not uncomfortable. It's not a big deal. You've done a whale of a job with this topic that we have tonight. So I want you to take that with you when you go to bed tonight, that you've done a whale of a job with what you've done. But this is one of those situations where Kafka is obviously, you talk, is a hire, is what I consider an intangible hire. Is that the right way to summarize that, Jeremy? Intangible.
Yes. The intangible is you got a running and play action offensive coordinator, and his assistant offensive coordinator helps with the passing side of the game. Mark Brunell's done a wonderful job fixing some of the mechanic issues that Goff still had after 4 years in the league when he came in the trade from the LA Rams to Detroit. But he might be able to take that cerebral side to the next level, which will move Goff from being a top 10 quarterback in opinion to possibly being elite this year.
Okay, that's fair enough. Mel, any thoughts about that?
About Kafka?
Yeah.
No, not really.
That's okay.
And I'm looking at, I'm looking and I don't know much about this offensive coordinator that they have, the Drew guy. I don't know, but I do know about David Shaw. I know what they did at Stanford. They ran the football and they ran the football very, very efficiently. And I do believe that he coached Andrew Luck over there while he was there as well, and they threw the ball pretty well. So I don't know why he's not getting an opportunity to be the offensive coordinator or something like that. But other than that, I'm just hoping after once the guy left and went to Chicago, we knew that window had closed, and it's going to be very, very difficult to replace what he was able to do and the type of production that he was able to get out of these guys on the offensive side of the ball. It's going to be very, very difficult to replace that.
Andy?
Go ahead, Jeremy. Go ahead.
Well, everybody says that, but at the same time, offense wasn't the issue because we averaged only 0.8 points per game less than what we did the previous season. Okay, offense wasn't the issue. It was defensively. Once certain players came back, and
what did your eyes tell you, Jeremy? What did your eyes tell you? Yeah, defense was a problem. Defense has been a problem. But what did your eyes tell you on the offensive side?
That our offensive line, with the loss of Ragnow and everything else, was a whole bunch of miscommunication. That's what I saw.
All right, well,
good. I would also say that Ben Johnson gave you different skill sets and skilled up your players and drew up different plays that helped your offense. And I think you were missing because you guys did some trick plays that I don't think you did this previous year either, though.
I understand that, but if you look at the overall and you divide it by 17 games, it was a 0.8 point difference. And that's it was to the lower side.
8 points is a touchdown.
No, 0.8, less than a point.
Oh, less than a point.
Yeah, less than a point difference.
All right,
It was 34.3 with Ben Johnson,
and they probably blew out a couple teams. You can't do it like that, Jeremy. You can't just do it like that. They probably blew out some teams, man. You can't do it like that.
We blew out a lot of teams the year before. We didn't blow out anybody but one team this year, and that was the Ravens. And back-to-back weeks, Ravens and Chicago. That was the only 2 blowouts we had, and we blew out Chicago. That was led by Ben Johnson.
Okay. All right, we got 3 topics I want to get to. We're going to get to them too, and that's this. We're going to stay with the Lions team again. Actually, I have 2 of the 3 topics pertaining to them. The rest of them are Michigan or base topics. The additions to the Lions, I only see one of these deals. I'm not talking about draft. We'll talk about draft another week, okay, Jeremy? So let's just stick with this. But obviously, most of their deals are 1-year deals. Isaiah Pacheco, 1 year, $1.8 million. Cade Mays, obviously, I think was the biggest buying. 3 years, $25 million to fortify that offensive line at center. Roger McCreary, cornerback, 1 year, $1.4 million. Tyler Conklin, a tight end from the Chargers, 1 year, $1.3 million. Teddy Bridgewater gets the veteran minimum. Offensive guard Ben Bartok.
No Bridgewater. He's back where?
He's back with the Lions, man.
Detroit.
But yeah, how about that? You never know what you learn here. No, Ben Bartek, offensive guard. Not the contract is not applicable. Larry Borum, I believe he's a local kid, if I understand correctly, right, Jeremy? 1 year,
he went to West Canton High School.
No, like I said, he was a local kid. Then you have an Ed DJ Wanham, 1 year, $3 million. Greg Dortch, 1 year, $4 million. Wide receiver. Another edge. Peyton Turner, 1 year, $1.1 million. Boy, a lot of 1 year deals here. Christian Eisen, don't worry, Candy. If you want to hashtag these, I'll send them to you. Okay, via text if you even care to do it. 1 year, $2 million. Damone Clark, 1 year, $1.4 million. He's a linebacker and safety. Thank God I'm running out of voice here. Chuck Clark, vet minimum. All right, Jeremy. These are some bargain basement deals here. Just give me an overall summary. I don't want you giving me one by one if you want to get your segment in. You just give me an overview on this.
The 3 main ones was bringing in Isaiah Pacheco to be the running back 2 with the loss of David Montgomery. Bringing in Cade Mays to replace the awful experiment of Graham Glasgow at center. Because if you look at his overall PFF grade, Cade Mays was the 25th ranked center and blah, blah, blah. But if you look at the last 6 games, which were the only ones he started at center, he finished from either 6th to top 10 every week in how the centers ranked as far as the analytics, which is the only thing I like PFF for, is offensive and defensive line rankings. It seems to be the only thing they get right. Teddy Bridgewater coming back. We didn't have a QB2 on the roster. There wasn't one. We didn't draft one last year. We didn't draft another one this year, but we did pick up a UDFA that might be able to compete with them, and that's the cerebral quarterback out of Illinois, Luke Altmaier. So I do want to mention that we have him. We also brought back Malcolm Rodriguez on a 1 year prove-it deal because he's been dealing with some injuries off and on. Rock Ya-Sin, it was important to bring him back because we see that the money we wasted on DJ Reed looks awful after the way he came back from the injury. So we needed him. And Roger McCreary, I like that pick signing. I like the Christian Izzian signing because he's a safety. We need root people in the safety room just in case Joseph and Branch are not ready at the beginning of the season.
Okay, fair enough. Ed, any thoughts?
It sounds like they Detroit stockpiling. It's just makes me nervous for my Commanders. Besides having to get out of the East, then we have to go through Detroit again. Then we had you 2 years ago, luckily. But other than that, then we just decided to fall off the cliff. So it's, and there's a lot of Dan Quinn is doing somewhat of an internal rebuild on his staff and things of that nature. So
it's good that we have a guy in Washington who'll talk about the Commanders. I like that. And you know what? You mentioned the right word there too, Ed. Stockpiling is what they're doing. And when you have that many numbers, those numbers there, not counting what you did in the draft, stockpiling is what the Lions did during the close of the day. Mm-hmm. Great point.
That's what you have to do. I mean, you have to, yeah.
Go ahead, Mel.
This is, Brad Holmes. We're going to find out what he's made out of. All that draft capital from the Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff trade, all that stuff is gone now. So now we're going to see if he's really able to build a team. And, with Jeremy saying we don't have a quarterback, maybe Diego Pavia would have been a good, this might have been a good spot for him.
You're not going to let me live that one. You're not going to let me live that one down.
No. If you
Jeremy
think Jared Goff
Radulov
is worse than Diego Pavia, you bumped your head.
Yeah.
No, I said maybe been a good backup. I was just joking, tongue in cheek. Believe me.
Well, don't laugh. I think I'll get to it on the next show. But then they get a guy out of Illinois that's pretty good, Jeremy.
The thing that really,
Luke Altmaier, very cerebral quarterback. He had a much better completion percentage than Pavia, who didn't break the 60% mark.
Yeah, Brett Billum is hyping him up.
Pavia was the runner-up in the Heisman Trophy, though, right, Scott?
Yeah, all right. Oh, okay. This is Mel's way of saying that he missed me the last 4 weeks. I love you, Mel. That's okay.
The thing that stands out to me is you got a lot of one-year deals. That's the thing that stands out to me, and that's really what it stands out to me about that is how poor our collective bargaining agreement is for the players, particularly for veteran players. That it's really take it or leave it, because that's what every other team is going to offer you as well. So I mean, take this or leave it, or we'll find something somebody younger and cheaper to replace you. And if you want to continue your career, then you're going to have to do it 1 year at a time. That's what really stood out to me on some of those contracts that you read out, that most of those guys are just on 1 year deals. And, God forbid something were to happen to them, they don't have any type of security, any guarantees or anything like that beyond this year. That's what really stood out to me when you're rattling off those numbers.
See, you know what? Here's the thing, Candy. Mel's obviously put me in a situation where he's forcing me to put a Diego Pavia soundbite on next week. So for the sake of Mel sticking it to me, Ed, I'm glad you're on this show permanently now. We're going to have a Diego Pavia soundbite next week because Mel's
I think I actually sent you a message about saying something about Diego Pavia. So
good.
It's been a while since we've been on here. I don't know if we've been on since the draft. Have we been on since the draft?
No, I don't think we were.
We had the one show after the draft, but before they left.
Okay, well, we must not have had an opportunity to talk about Diego because I just remember prior to the draft, Sandy, you have to find those. You have to find those clips too about Scott and somebody.
All right. So here,
I think Scott was talking about a late first round. Late first round.
All right, Mel. I mean, I thought he was going to be about hyped up. I didn't expect him not to get even drafted, let alone undrafted, until nobody wanted him. So because Ed, you went ahead and put that in the messenger, and this guy's giving me a hard time because he's missed me so much, Mel, and I missed you too. We're gonna have a Diego Pavia soundbite next week just because of Mel. He's obviously.
Please, Kenny, find the soundbite where Scott said late first round, early second.
Oh, so find something so you can stick it to me. I can handle it. Don't worry, I can handle it. If I can dish it out, I can take it. It's okay. All right, Katie.
Wait. I got one thing to add about Diego Pavia before we move on. The only thing I hated is that he actually made me write a draft profiler about him.
All right. Let me ask you a question. If I have to keep defending this, if you want your segment tonight,
what was your profile? Where did you have him going?
Seriously,
I said he'll either be a day 3 pick or a UDFA. That is what I said.
All right, well, that's all right. You'll still have time for your segment if I get these other two topics out of the way, but everybody take their shots at me. That's okay. This is a good day.
It was my turn. It was my turn to give you that love.
That's okay. I know. That's all right, Eddie. Again, you'll hear Diego Pavia from yours truly here next week because by popular demand. Okay. All right, Katie, give me some thoughts about this. And then we have 2 more things I want to get around to. Plus, Jeremy, if he's nice enough, he'll get about a minute for his segment. Go ahead.
So 2 of the ones that I would emphasize, yes, Jeremy, I agree, center Cade Mays, but then also tackle Larry Borum. He has NFL experience as right tackle, but he's also filled in at left tackle and both guard spots, so he's versatile. He's played at least 330 offensive snaps in each of his first 5 seasons in the league. He's a 5-year veteran with 38 games at starting experience under his belt. And I think with the injuries that you had on your offensive line that you really needed some help and bolstering that. So I think that'll help you guys. As much as I'm a Packer fan and don't want you guys to have success, you can have success as long as it's not against us.
All right, well, let's
see you week 7.
I know. And the
since Mel likes to talk about Brad Holmes, we'll talk about Brad Holmes by the numbers. Prior to this draft, he had 36 total draft selections, 27 trades, 17 offensive players were selected, 19 on defense. In the college that he drafted the most from were Alabama, 4, and the conference SEC. So he knows where to find his players. Obviously, this was before the draft. We'll update more next week. But Jeremy, just give us a brief, okay, if you want your segment tonight, overall synopsis about what Brad Holmes did prior to this particular draft here, and does this stay with the way he likes to do things?
Well, let's not throw Quezzy under the bus about having 0 Pro Bowlers when Brad Holmes has 9.
Right, there you go.
Out of his drafted picks. So, he's done a very good job. Has he had some misses? Yes, I believe right now his hit rate is sitting at 54%, when the average for a GM is 33.
So let that sink in. Minnesota guy. Good stuff, Jeremy. All right, Ed, there's a little bit about player evaluation here. Brad Holmes obviously knows where to find SEC. Talked about how good of a conference it is. And Holmes seems to be hitting this year. He went more towards Big Ten in the ACC. So thought that.
Well, yeah. Well, he's obviously doing I just pulled some stuff up. He's obviously doing a decent job because the Detroit Lions are putting a good product onto the field and they're winning ball games. Granted, it has to do with a combination of the players that it's a combination between the players, the GM and the coach, because the GM has to understand the coaching philosophy, be able to find players that fit into that philosophy. You can go and find that best talent on the board in the first round, but actually, to me, the GMs really make their money is when you get into day 2 and day 3.
No question about it.
4 days. Yeah.
That's
so that's Yep, exactly. Those guys are going to be what, and just to kind of piggyback on Candy's point, I think that the line is those 2 line picks that they got, or the two free agents that they picked up. I think that's going to be very, as much as it makes me throw up in my mouth a little bit, because obviously you being in the NFC and we may have to go through Detroit. I think that, the line, a stable line, strong line, it's 350-pound men pounding each other like car wrecks. You need to have guys that are durable and can move in different positions.
Well, Ed, you know what I would encourage you to do if you don't go there with me, go to a Senior Bowl. I'm going to tell you that's where a lot of your day 2 and 3 picks are. Candy and I had a great experience there, and we plan on making that a regular occurrence. So, and that's
maybe we do a show. Maybe we do a show from the Senior Bowl.
Man, I got news for you. I kicked the tires on it last year, but the problem was weather kicked my butt, so it was a little bit of a problem. I wasn't prepared for it. Even Busey's couldn't save me for what happened to me last year, because that was cold up in Alabama. Don't worry, Ed, you're in the system now. We'll talk about future considerations. Stay in the game, brother. Okay, Mel, some real thoughts about Brad Holmes' track record, Candy, and then we'll have one more topic, and then Jeremy, I'll have a quick segment.
I mean, I think his track record thus far has been pretty good. But his drafts have been pretty good. I think you make your name with the guys that you draft in the first round. I think you make your money with your day 2, 3, and your undrafted free agents. Obviously, he's the guys in day 1. The first round picks pretty much knocked him out of the park. Other than the DB they drafted out of Alabama, not too sure about him. Branch, when they got the first pick, I believe it was on day 2 a couple years ago. I mean, he knocked that one out of the park. But we're going to see now. All that Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford stuff is gone now. We're going to see what he's made out. We still haven't got a backup quarterback, as Jeremy alluded to. Got this kid from Illinois or wherever he is. Teddy Bridgewater's. Come on now. I thought he was coaching. I mean, that's not. If God forbid something were to happen to God forbid something were to happen to Jared Goff, and Teddy Bridgewater had to play. So they definitely need to try to find a backup quarterback. I think that should be priority number 1. God forbid something were to happen to Jared Goff. but they're building up the defensive side of the football. They're going to have to get better on the defense. They're going to have to get more stout. They're going to have to get some more pressure on the passer. So we're going to see. I mean, they got a guy out of Michigan, I believe it was, in the second round.
Derek Moore and
edge
another
rusher
one out
in
of
the
the
second
fourth.
round. They got a linebacker, I believe, day 2 as well. So we're going to see. They got offensive lineman out of Clemson in the first round because we know we need an offensive lineman because of the retirement. And big skipper, he's retired as well, so they don't have him around anymore. So they're going to have to, they're going to have to work on that depth on the offensive side of the football. But they're going to have I'm more worried about their philosophy, what their philosophy is going to be this year as far as running the football. Since Ben's been gone, it's just been kind of helter-skelter there. So just trying to, kind of anxious to see what it's going to look like on the offensive side of the football. And hopefully they're able to play complementary football. They're able to play good defense, get off the field on third down. But Brad, thus far, I mean, you'd have to give him, A- or so for his draft picks.
I've got one topic I'm not going to get to. I'm going to wait till next week to do it. It'll fit in then. I'll get Candy the last word on this. Jeremy gets his quick segment, which will last about 45 seconds or about a minute, and then we'll wrap it up. But at least I'll wait on it. It's about Spartan Stadium. We'll just wait for next week's show to air that one. We'll have more time to talk about it. Candy, some quick thoughts on this.
So the quick thoughts about Brad Holmes, that his first transaction was the trade Matthew Stafford for Jared Goff and a third round and 2 first round. With the first round picks, he selected Jamison Williams and Jamar Gibbs. You tell me, how did his first transaction that he did for the Lions, how did that turn out, and how are at least 2 out of the 3 of those draft picks working out for him? I think he's doing pretty good.
Yeah, it was a sign of more things to come, is what you're saying, and I'll go there. All right, Jeremy, you got about a minute to get your segment done, and then we'll go around the horn real quick station break. Candy will put the book up, and then we'll go around the horn. Go ahead, Jeremy, quick.
Well, the word out of OTAs here in Detroit is that Skylar Gill-Howard has been making a name for himself, proving that he's not just a defensive tackle, because he's at that tweener size at 6'2" and 295 pounds. He's actually been taking snaps in rotation at the defensive end opposite Aiden Hutchinson and Ahmad Hassanin, and making his presence felt with his bull rush and power moves, as in the swim. He's got a nice first step. He's not the fastest guy out there, but he's been very efficient. And another guy to watch out for Detroit was DJ Wanham. And the only reason why I say that is because prior to getting to Detroit, AQM Al-Qadim Muhammad only had 6 sacks in a season. This kid is only 4 years into the league and already had an 8.5 sack season with the Panthers.
All right, well, that's good. All right, Ed, real quickly, your thoughts about being on Inside the Pigskin real quick.
Thought it was great. Thank you for having me on. I had a fun time talking with everybody. It was a good show, and look forward to it more. I'm looking forward now to even more to football season. This could get really fun. And
don't worry. Next week I'm going to have a lot of beef. I had a lot of good stuff tonight that we had to catch up on. Wait till next Tuesday. It'll be a much different experience. All right, Mel, quickly with the nonprofit. Candy, put the book up, and then we're done.
Yeah, you can find me on all social media at melfarjr.com. Follow what we have going on here in Georgia and also in Michigan for the youth at melfarsuperstarfoundation.org.
Okay, Candy, put the book up. Tell them where they can get it, and then we'll wrap it up.
South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by our host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. Talks about his 40-plus years in the media business. Its audiobook is out there. You can also find the real book on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. There's also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com.
Great job, everybody. Ed, rookie of the night, did a great job. I'll have him on Thursday night. He'll be on Tuesday and Thursday night. And if I need him once in a while for soccer, he'll be there with Dave Bradley and I. Jeremy, is always glad to have you back on the show permanently. Mel, Candy, you guys are great. And now I have to bite my tongue here with Diego Pavia for the next week. So Mel can stick it to me next week. I'll deal with it. So meanwhile, that does it for him. Go ahead, Jeremy.
He did get signed as an undrafted free agent by the Ravens to a one-year contract.
That's good enough. All right, but I got to deal with Mel next week, so I'll deal with that. And he gets his Diego Pavia clip. that does it for us tonight inside the Pigskin. On behalf of Jeremy, Ed, Mel, Candy, and yours truly, the Motor City Man Mouse. My name is Scott Morgan. Thank you for joining us. See you next Tuesday night. Tomorrow night, doubleheader.